how's it going, everyone? None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right. So we were going through and seeing just updated OBS. Let's see. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. I think one of my kids got me sick. We'll see. Tanya, these kids always giving you the plague. Entertain me. Hey, what's up, Random? How are you, bud? All right. Can everyone hear me? We're good there. Hola. Yeah. All right. We'll wait for some more people to come on. I got to turn on Discord as well. Let's see. You're doing well with this entertainment Dance, monkey. Dance. All right, let's see. What's up, Hustle? How are you, bud? I think DZ was going to come on, so we'll see if we can get that going. And if I can unscrew up. APSMA found the court documents posted in the main room. Let me take a look. Oh, for GNS. Okay, I was making sure. All right, so we need to hit GNS Cal. They had something going on today, right? I'm gonna have to get caught up myself because I was actually on the road a good amount today for work, so I was not able to be on the server as much as I would like to have. Oh boy, there's a bunch of stuff going on. All right, let me see. All right, so I'm looking at for your. Wait, I have to enter a password for what? What do you have to put the password in for? I'll show you guys. So for me to, I guess, open the court document, I've got to put in my information. All right. I'll make something up. I don't know what my password is. Can you look at it some other way? For some reason, you didn't have to enter a passcode. Huh. Let me try maybe if I go... me try putting it in, like, I don't know, not Chrome, but Bing or whatever that Edge, Microsoft Edge. Okay, it came up on here, so let's do that. Let's see. Let's try this. Okay. You know what it is? I think it's because I had a Adobe account for Adobe Creative. That's my guess. This action arises from a toxic convertible note scheme. Course of business that led to defendants' access to 50 million newly issued shares of plaintiff stock. Wait, how is that possible? They didn't even have that many authorized, I don't think, right? What's up, guys? All right, so this is interesting. This would also explain the price action, what's going on. So there were these, and maybe we can pull up something in Dilution Tracker to take a look and just compare it against what we have here. So they had already unlocked a bunch of shares in the S3. So if you go here, if we go to filings, somewhere on here, let's see if we can see it. All right. What was the name of that group? It was Alto. Was it Alto? These are the tranches, right? Such installments may be subject to convertible notes, right? Blah, blah, blah. I thought they only had access to 11 million. 11.5. Where do they get 50? I bet you it's hidden somewhere in here. Like, if you do the math out, 85% of the volume during certain measuring periods. But wait, it says we have estimated the maximum number of ordinary shares that may be ultimately issued to the convertible notes would be 11.5 million, although that actual amount may be greater. That's misleading. Is this what you guys were talking about? Page 13? No, that was on 19. But on page 13. Hey, oh wait, that's right. Hustle, you're in the car, right? You're traveling right now. All right, this is page 13. That's not it. Oh, you've read to page 13. Hmm. I mean, do they have a leg to stand on? Like, they clearly signed this, right? Like, GNS signed this and they put this into effect, right? Interesting. Do they really have access to 50 million? Because nobody's got that information right then, because literally they've got the float as 23 million, shares outstanding is 37 million. Ortex has it as, I don't even know if Ortex is updated theirs. Let's see. Ortex has 24 point, yeah, so like 23, 24 on Ortex. Fintel's got it as, or they're just saying they have access to it, which is why they're basically just bleeding it off. Yeah, shares outstanding. They didn't even update theirs. That's the old shares outstanding. They haven't even updated it to the new one yet. They signed it, but the way it was worded, Alto was attempting to keep it secret and add the SEC. I could see where that's a problem. Yeah, because I thought they released the 11.5 million shares. You're saying it might be even more? Which is why GNS is suing them? Yeah, that's interesting. That's dirty. That straight up is dirty. If that's how they went about it, like you think about it, whew. Spicy. Yeah, I mean it's like a convertible. So essentially what's happened to BBBY, right? So like if that's how it's going down, if they're convertibles, they're literally able to convert, and the more they convert, the lower the prices, the more they can convert. But wow, like nobody caught that. Oh, BBBY was filed with the SEC. This one wasn't. Oh, interesting. So they're basically doing this behind the SEC's back. Dun dun dun. Yeah. I don't think the SEC will like that. They might actually have a case there then. I don't think I've read about this though. Let's good find there, Asma. I didn't think well, I was gonna say this isn't exactly what they were gonna sue them. They were suing somebody else. They were going to sue the Naked Shorts, but I guess this was more pressing because obviously this has a lot to do with the price. Did this actually get talked about on like GNS anywhere? Like, there's only 500 members of that community, but was that even like discussed? Yeah, there it is. There's the court docs for it. Nobody's really talking about it. Yeah. Yeah, and then it looks like Robinhood, E-Trade, Webull all suspended trading. So there's no buying pressure, and they're just able to push down the price. Not filing with the SEC, there could be other agreements out there too that would conflict. Yeah. But I know, I don't know if Hustle Fly would be telling you this, so I won't say anything, but you obviously know how to read some legal documents, so I'd be curious to see what you think about what. Wait, where'd it go? What did I do with it? I lost it. Wait, oh, that's right. It wasn't on Chrome. It was on here. Hold on. I'll find it. It's slow today. There it is. That will allow Alto to obtain and distribute over 50 million newly issued discounted plaintiff stock without disclosure. They're going to receive $200 million, over $200 million of return on investment on $17 million. I mean, is this just something that, like, literally, like, GNS's lawyers missed? They just didn't understand what it said, and so this basically was worded in a way that they didn't catch it? Screenshot what? The 200 million? Yeah, look at that. Yeah, because I mean, they'd never be able to raise money when they have that much convertible. Like, they literally had the stock run up, and then these guys came out. I thought they were only diluting 11.5 million because that's what Dilution Tracker had, but clearly there was like a Trojan horse built into this. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess don't bring a knife to a gunfight when you have lawyers, I guess, right? Like, you have a lawyer that's your friend's buddy's girlfriend or boyfriend, and they're representing you reading over these documents versus Wall Street lawyers who are gonna, hedge fund lawyers that are gonna basically try to trick you any which way if you don't catch it. Let's see. Let's see if we can figure out what else they have. Acting through offered Genius up to $17 million in financing in exchange for convertible debt securities that would provide defendants the right to convert installment payments into shares. Blah 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 blah. Genius needed additional capital. The defendant drafted agreements entered by Genius and Alto, which were presented to Genius as a take it or leave it, without an opportunity for meaningful negotiation. Oh, so they basically strong-armed him into signing it without understanding what the $17 million really meant. So the agreement provided or contained numerous one-sided provisions highly. They entered into a registration rights of agreement. Yeah, look at all this. You're right, Hustle. I think the lawyers should have known. They were under duress. Basically, someone's pointing a gun at my head, you know. But yeah, it sounds like they may not have understood fully what taking that 18 million was giving up. That's rough. And Alto may have made misrepresentations during the negotiation. Yeah. Yep, falling 32 cents. Oh, so they've been doing this for a while? Is that what it is? Basically a Ponzi scheme on GNS. Well, Ponzi usually is when you take money to pay the other one, right? Is that essentially what they were doing? Because normally you have your original investors, and then you take other people's money to basically pay back the other person, and then yeah, I mean, I've seen the spikes. I mean, we can pull up the chart, but I mean, for example, if we pull in GNS here, I mean, you can see they started out. They had obviously a wild IPO, but like right here, we had a nice climb, and then boom, they sold off. You have another nice climb, boom, sold off. Another nice climb, boom, selling off. Like basically starting, yeah, in like August of last year, right? This is August of last year. Yeah. And then they were basically running him into the ground. And then they did that short squeeze thing. And then obviously it ran back up, but it's like, now it looks like this gap will fill, and maybe this one as well. We'll see if they keep just diluting on them. It's a lot of dilution, which means that this thing will never squeeze if there's that much dilution. I mean, oh yeah, Hustle, you're right. So he wrote, worse, it could be fraud if Alto knew the deal, then set the algos to push down the price, then manipulated. Yep. So this lawsuit that they're bringing against the shorts could have been Alto knowing the whole time what was going to happen, and therefore they shorted each peak and then basically were the ones shorting the company into the dirt. So that's why they actually probably have proof, right? Because it's almost like with the Tyrion. Remember, we were saying that, for example, I mean, let me just show you this real quick. We'll go back over to GNS in a second, but we were talking about this where like the stock fell through the floor, right? It ran up this day and then fell through the floor, and then we found out that Armistice sold all the shares that they had. So Armistice knew, right, that they were going to do a deal with the Tyrion ahead of time, right? So they all of a sudden get this deal locked in, and then knowing that they were going to be the ones, basically, they were able to probably short it again. and then just sell off their shares because they knew that they were going to have the warrants basically to back it up, right? So in this case, because they know that dilution's going to send the stock price down, they shorted the hell out of it, pushing it down sub 1. And then eventually they start covering again, which brought the stock price back up to probably where it should be, in the back in this range. And this is about what it was probably book value, but they were able to basically sell off these shares, short it, and then take profits. And then, but when they closed their prices, they probably ran it back up, took profits here, and been bleeding it back down. Yeah, but you're right. With GNS, that's a little bit different because there's a little more of a clear-cut case because they've known this entire time since they basically made them take the deal that they were going to basically do this. That's interesting. That's dirty. That's so interesting. You think like the stock market's this well-regulated thing, and it is not. It is absolutely not. All right. So let's take a look. I remember reading in StockTwit someone had stating that they had someone that was able to cover their shorting on ATER. Wait, what? I remember reading in StockTwit someone stating that they had someone that was able to cover their shorting. Yeah, I mean, if you think about what ATER has, technically they're hedged both ways, right? So they can short the stock down temporarily, or maybe that's their end goal is they're basically just short ATER. But they were the ones that went to ATER and said, hey, listen, we'll lend you some, shares. You give us some warrants, blah, 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 blah. And, that basically hedges them to the upside. So basically what happened was when they got the warrants last time, remember it was like 10 days into it. And we basically were looking at this run right here, right? We had came all the way down, right? We were chilling down here in the twos. And then out of nowhere, that huge volume day came, right? They were just like, all right, screw it. Like, we'll let them run it up. So they, basically run it up. Then they take their profits. They sell all the shares, like their entire position, right? Knowing that they still have more warrants coming. And they were able to basically just push it down through here. Like, that's why I'm thinking it was, like, the small cap games and this pipe warrant game is, like, filthy. Like, people talk about swamps, and like the Wall Street is a big swamp, and the biggest one of all is small caps because it's all of it's just ugh. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense though, right? Really depends on what GNS can prove. I mean, they've been basically, my guess would be they've probably been watching this one firm in their algos, right? So, like, that would not be shocking, right? Like, these guys were basically like, oh, we'll give you this deal knowing that we can screw you into oblivion. And that's essentially what they did. And maybe them going to Fox and getting on national TV was essentially them trying to basically bait, more evidence out of the shorts. Because at the time, it looked like there was only like a 10 million share float. They knew that these guys were going to pop out of the woodworks at some point. This only probably strengthens their case. The problem is, though, they signed the thing. So, you have to prove now that, like, the other side did something wrong. So, Anna, can the small caps ever get out from manipulation? I mean, if better rules were put in place and actually enforce them, maybe. But, like, I mean, you think about it. Like, think about this. Like, these companies, they're, trading around or flying around like billions of dollars of market cap just flying around right now, right? You've got some of these small caps that literally, like, the smaller of hedge funds can just absolutely just toy up and down because who's going to stop them? Like, if nobody else is like, think about this. Like, how many hedge funds are in on these small caps? Like, they put like 1% of their, like, not even 1%, like 0.005% of their capital into some of these small caps, make, 60-70% on a rip, and then just sell out. Like, those add up over time, but like, you look at who owns the stuff, and it's like almost getting to the point where now we're kind of catching on a lot more. It's obvious on what happens to some of these things. Like, if we go into the filings and see who the holders are, right? Oh, look, Renaissance just came in, right? Like, this is for genius, but let's go to like some of the bigger ones, right? So like, if you look at like BBBY, let's look at the holders. Like, it's all these big name, BlackRock, like, I'm sure there's some, Citadel, like these hedge funds and these big guys. Let's do, and they're like, what was it, the 163 million market cap for Bed Bath & Beyond at this point, mainly because all their liabilities. Yeah, they don't even have to put much skin in the game, and they can just toy with these small caps, Let's look at DTC for a second. Right? DTC has been sitting there stagnant. You know what the volume on DTC is? It's tiny. Like, but, that's what you kind of watch is like you can start watching as some of these guys get like larger positions. All of a sudden the stock starts moving when it never moved before. They run it up and then sell and, get retail FOMO in, and that's who they're selling to. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like we're starting to really kind of come into our own as far as like, I was working with Fish, and like he and I were talking about GameStop. We've been kind of deep diving into GameStop, and like, whew, I mean, that was 7.9 billion shares of like short volume over a span of 9 years or something like that. And then we started looking to the swap stuff, and there's like a strong correlation between like the price of the stock and these swaps. And so you start like kind of really deep diving into this stuff, and it's like, it's all a game to these guys. Mighty. Oh, right, random. Alto already owned the majority of shares. Well, here's the thing. When we looked at GNS, they weren't reporting that they own a large amount of shares. Now, granted, that might just be because they haven't but like, look at this. Like, they're not even listed on there. Or is this the name of them? Arton Capital. I know they were named in a lawsuit, but like, I don't even see them listed. Like, we can go Fintel maybe and go to owners. Oh, wait, this isn't the one I want. Institutional owners, that's what I want, right? If you look here, they're not even listed, right? These guys are listed, only 64,000 like contract. Like, I don't see Alto's name. And they're even if they were this, it's not 5% of the float. So like, they're not even registered right now. I don't know how that's legal. Like, I think if you own a certain percentage, right, you have to report it, right? Is Alto's Ventures Management? Where's that? Where do you see Ventures? Like, here's your 13 Fs and M ports. Like, this should be the same thing as this. So I don't even see him on there. We can look on here too, but like holders. If we look at percentage of shares, right? You've got Roger. You've got this Simon guy who got a bunch of shares on the last run up. They unlocked them basically, but no one else owns even close to 5%. These are insiders. I don't see them anywhere. How can that be? Maybe they haven't filed a 13G yet. That's the only thing I can think of is they haven't filed the paperwork saying how much shares they own. But, I mean, if they can unlock 50 million shares, now granted, they're probably just selling them off, right? They don't want to hold the company long, so they're just literally just selling them off, making money on the conversions. But, like, if they wanted to, they'd have more power than Roger. Well, I mean, that technically they don't have to hold any of them. They can convert the entire thing over. But then the shares outstanding is going to be huge compared to where it was. You're going to go from 37 to probably like 80 something million, right? If they converted every one of their shares, if they have access to 50 million shares, then they could probably go from, that's crazy. Okay, let's see. All right, well, let's wrap that up for now. So for right now, GNS is going to probably continue to go down as long as this dilution's happening. I do remember, like, even tweeting back to Roger saying, like, it wasn't 11.5 million, and I think he even responded and said something about, like, not happy with this, what's going on with the dilution or something like that. So, right, and if they own and gain that many shares than the majority holders, and then they would have to register, if they're over, I'm guessing 5% of the, ownership, they would have to start registering it. But I can tell you right now, if they're just converting the notes over, then what's going to end up happening is they'll just continue dropping the stock price, making money on their conversions, and they won't ever hold more than 5%, which is the loophole a lot of these, like, deals go through. And that's essentially what's happening, I think, with BBBY, is because they're never going to hold over 5% of the float, because they're just converting everything over, and they're trying to just keep volume high enough where they can keep converting them over without sending it to the floor. Because we've talked about that before. People were like, oh, well, there's no way this could possibly be dilution, right? Well, guess what? So from this point to this point, that's like almost 80% of it's almost a like 78% drop, right? What do you think's been happening here? Like, from this day to this day, and I was going off where they closed at like 5 something, not from this point. Like, literally from where they closed at like 580 down to like a dollar. What was it today? Hit a low of $1.36. It's like a 78% drop from here to here. What do you think's happening during this, right? You've had decent volume days. You've had a couple green days on the SPY, and yet you've only had like 1, 2, 3, 4 candles out of like 12. Yeah. So I do think that something's definitely going on there. People keep being like, "Oh, you're just a show." I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, and from what I can see, no, this is what bothers me. If they haven't diluted anything, and the stock price right now is $1.30, whatever, 39. What do you think it's going to happen when 900 million shares of dilution start happening, and they're able to reset all the FTDs and the reg shows gone? If they aren't diluting right now, BBBY is in even rougher shape than anyone thinks, because they haven't even started dilution, and you could say, oh, they're pricing it in, but let's be honest, like, they better be diluting if this is what the stock price is doing. If not, they lost every single one of their institutional investors. The institutions just have been selling off. If there's no dilution, this is literally just institutions selling off all their shares. And that's not good, because you're still going to have to lock up their difference if you wanted to squeeze anything. So even if there's no dilution, that's the only other logical explanation, is every one of those toots is selling off all their positions. And that's not good either. So, all right, so what ones do we need to cover? Oh, let me scroll back up. All right, so we did GNS, Cal. Poor Cal. Cal's just been running into the dirt, right? You gotta zoom in a lot to even see it. It's just been barcoding down here. And they had problems with cash, right? Wasn't that the deal? I'm just reading what you guys are talking about. It's part of the lawsuit. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be earnings that you'll discover a lot more in earnings. Let's see real quick on GNS. When's earnings coming out on them? That's a while away, isn't it? Is that May? There's nothing in between there? It's overseas, that's right. Oh, you want to talk about Bed Bath & Beyond? Yeah, so, I mean, if you looked at, if I can, let me just change this. So, if you look here, let's just do a 15-minute view, right? And we'll zoom out a bit so you can see what's happened, right? So, right, you've got this huge run up, right? And then they gap down hugely, right? So we still have a gap from basically 555 down to 388. So for them to fill this gap, it would have to get up to 555, right? But if you look, ever since basically they announced, the filing, this thing's basically just been hammered down, right? So you've just seen this continual sell pressure, and there are pops up, right? So you have some days, and this is at the end of the day, right? It's a pre-market next day. So you've got these slight run-ups, and then they always just bleed off slowly. And they try to get like retail still in on it, because they need to keep the volume high enough where they can convert these things over. So I mean, I'm just looking at it like this. Like, you get pushed down here, right? You have a couple run-ups. The morning, this is at the end of the day, push back down. It just, every single spike they just get absolutely nailed back down. Like, let me change it to like a 5-minute view, because I think that's a better like indication of how spiky this gets at times. All right, so here we go, right? So come out, right? Every single time they push it back up at the end of the day, it bleeds off. This is the next day, right? Just looking at the times. Shouldn't do a 3-minute. That's too weird. I'm not used to looking at a 3-minute. But yeah, like, so typically what they need to do is they need to keep this thing engaged for retail. So they, I don't know. I like part of me is like, do they pay some of these people to basically just? I'm sure they're using bots on the Discord and also, stock twits and because if they if retail all of a sudden decides, at Bed Bath and Beyond, I'm just going to cut my losses, it's going to go straight to the floor. The only reason they got this deal done was because they figured they could trick retail into basically buying into their selling pressure. That's why they're able to convert all these notes over, and that's the only reason they were even given a shot to do this. Because typically, if you've got a stock with no volume, you're not going to be able to do like an ATM or one of these convertibles. Like if this was anything but a meme stock that had a pretty large fan base, like there would be no way they could get this done. But because retail is just like, oh, Bed Bath and Beyond, Ryan Cohen, but like I'm almost wondering, is there like a plant who's just like feeding ideas of like, yeah, I mean, like I heard Ryan Cohen's gonna swoop back in and save retail, and he wouldn't do like. I don't know, but I mean, I heard his interview, and it sounded pretty clear that he was done with Bed Bath and Beyond, and he was like, listen, things changed, and I didn't like it, so I sold. Like to me, that doesn't sound like, oh well, I've got a master plan to come back in and save all these retail investors. It sounds like he and the board had a falling out. He didn't like what was going on, and he saw the writing on the wall and was like, I've got these calls, might as well, cash out. And the other thing was, if you notice where he sold on the day they reported that he was still in. So if you guys don't know this, basically when you file, right, the thing that was like a 13F, he sold the same day he filed. So he filed, and everyone's like, oh, he's still in. And he sold like the next 2 days. And then like reported like right after that he essentially was completely out. Like he had the like letter basically like ready to go, and he basically signed the thing saying that he was still in, and then the stock price pumped, and then he got out like 2 days later. So you tell me that he's coming back to save retail. I'm pretty sure he's not. It looked like he was looking to make some money, and he made money, and none of it went to Bed Bath & Beyond, despite all those people saying, like, oh, he did it to save the company so they would get the cash. No, he didn't. That's not what happened. I still remember, like, reading these things on the Reddit, and I'm going, none of this is true. Like, I don't know if it's just, when bags get that heavy, you're just like, I'm not going to tell the truth. I need anything to work, right? Like, I don't know. So, but yeah, I mean, Bed Bath & Beyond is it's in a bad debt crisis, and it's only going to get worse. Like, if this is dilution, it's going to get worse, and it sucks. I don't like shorts winning every single time, but it seems like they typically win. And so, because number one, retail can't hold their, they can't hold it together, because if they see any sort of like thing, then they get easily fooled because nobody understands what's going on. So all they see is the stock price, and that's how they measure, anything. Is just like, oh, the stock price is going down, you must be wrong. And then they sell, and then everything comes unraveled. So, all right, have a great night, Hustle. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, like exactly midnight. Like the filing came, they were like, oh, he needs to file that so he can sell later. Yeah, and then he was out that same day. The next 2 days, he sold everything. Like, everyone's like, oh, he wouldn't have done that. And I'm like, I thought that. I was like, that's not his MO, but, like, it's possible. I was like, I don't think that's what he typically does, but at the same time, he had every right to. He filed the paperwork and he sold. But, like, everyone just assumed he was doing that because eventually he was going to sell. And that's... Looking back now, I'm like, phew. What did it run to? Like 30, right? I mean, he got out. He made his money. People put him on a pedestal that I don't understand. Like, that's the honest truth. Like, I think he's a smart guy. But, like, I don't think he's, doing all these things that people say. It was like, oh, he's going to make a utopia for like apes. No. The guy's a business dude. Like, he started a business, he went against Amazon, and he won. And he sold his company to Petco for like $1 billion. And he started his own hedge fund. And I'll be honest, he probably just hired a bunch of really smart people to help him do this, because I think he understands a lot of this stuff. But at the same time, I don't think he's as good as the people he hired. Like, and I don't think everything he does has meaning. Like, I honestly think that this is a dude that at times gets drunk or high and then looks at his buddies and goes, let me post something ridiculous and see what they come up with. Right? Like, that, to me, that's more probable than them dissecting a picture of, like, Boner going. Like, I think he's just a dork. It was 3.2 billion. He didn't take all of it, though, did he? What's up, man? How are you, bud? His profit was $1 billion, right? That's what he actually took home. He sold the thing for 3.2 billion, but his own like take home was $1 billion, I think, right? Because there were other investors in, Chewy, right? So like, but I'm pretty sure he walked away from the deal with about $1 billion. Did you catch the beginning part when we were talking about GNS? Is it pronounced Manares? Maranes? Three founders split, so each one of them got each one got $1 billion. But like, I like Ryan Cohen. I think he's a smart guy, and I do like. I'm still on GameStop, but like, Marantz. Okay. What's up, man? I was going to say, did you catch the front part about, we were talking about GNS and the lawsuit? I think you and I both talked about it before, but I was going to say, interesting, we found the lawsuit and basically found, they I guess, is it Alto, right? Alto has the rights to, like, Marantz. Yeah, let me find this thing. Do we still have it up? Okay, so check this out, right? So Genius Group is suing these guys right here and Alto, right? So they've got the Alto and this Aronton, whatever. So essentially what they did was they've snuck some toxic convertible notes and basically are claiming that they didn't understand the deal. But it gives them access to 50 million newly issued shares of the stock. And it was because the wording on it, and they said they didn't have time to review it. Basically, they walked into a room, said, you can either take the 18 million or we're walking away. And they didn't have time to act, so they basically, under duress, signed it, is what they're claiming. And this thing, when this is all said and done, if they convert all these things over, they'll receive about $200 million on a $17 million investment. Right? So, like, that's a lot of dilution. That's a ton of dilution. All of a sudden, you went from a 10 million float share to essentially probably like an 85 million. So, like, ugh. The whole thing looks messy. The question is, do they have enough? But I think this is actually what they were talking about. They were like, we have evidence. Yeah, that's the investment from August. And I thought it was for 11.5 million, and that was it, right? Because that's initially what it looks like on the, if you pull up the filing here, this initially says it's like 11.5 million shares, but there's like a hidden clause in there that says if it's over a certain, volume and all this stuff, they get to unlock more. And they even said at one point, it said like the estimated thing is 11.5 million, though it could be more. Let's see. Where was it? Was it more? Increase, though. Where do we find that? Maybe if I put the 11. Why is nothing coming up? Is it not searching the right? I'll try doing a Control F instead. I'm not used to using Edge, but shit, what did I do? All right, hold on. I have no idea what I did there. All right, let's see if I can find this thing. Anyway, but yeah, so essentially what this thing is saying is like that's why the stock price is just bleeding off. It's because essentially these guys are getting a convertible just like BBBY. And these guys are just converting everything over, and they'll never hold over 5% because they're just selling off shares. MULN. Long time unless these guys win this court case. Now, the only thing that's interesting, though, was so Dirty, if you want to help me with this thing, but because he's actually read through a lot of it, but essentially what's going on is these things are it just it just depends if these guys get this thing taken care of in court or not, but this is the reason why I think he said it makes GNS. Here's my thought, right? I think this entire naked shorting thing is actually stemming from this deal, and I think they are going to sue these these entities right here because I think they basically knew that they had this toxic thing that they made them sign, and then they could short them into the ground. And it makes sense because they basically made them sign this thing. They said they basically came to the table, said you have to sign this thing for $17 million we'll give you right now, or we're walking away from the deal. And apparently they didn't have time to really review it at length. They just signed it, that day because they needed the funding. And these guys obviously knew that there was a toxic, a toxic agreement in here that was not clearly worded. So they may have had their lawyers breeze through it, but they didn't see, obviously, their ability to convert way more shares. So essentially what's ending up happening then is these, they probably set their algos to run this thing into the ground. So from what I understand, that's probably what this whole lawsuit's about. The naked shorting was probably these guys knowing that no matter which way they were covered, right? They could convert over to get a whole bunch of things. Read 38. Okay. Alto recognized that giving effect to these conversion notices would cause Alto, together with its attribution parties, to beneficially own far in excess of 4.99% of GNS's shares outstanding immediately after giving effect to such conversions in excess of maximum percentage, and would trigger reporting requirements under 13. So, but they haven't done that, right? So they're not even filed, right? Yeah, I think this whole thing's interesting because this is, it's almost like a pipe warrant game where they're just like, all right, no matter what, we're going to be able to make money on these guys. They go up, we'll convert, we control everything. So on February 1st, Genius advised that ATRN that this is of this year, that according to Genius's calculations, Alto already owned over the amount of shares it can convert. Yeah. So they didn't file. Who's Genius's lawyer that said, let's sign it? They may not even had a lawyer in the room. It sounds like these guys just came in. The SEC doesn't even know. There was no effect in change of the outstanding shares. So they converted these things over without actually informing the SEC. Can you do that? Can you even do that? I know this is trading on where is it? They're based out of what, like Singapore or Hong Kong or something like that. But like, check out GNS's board. They have 3 plants. Yeah, I'm sure it's from those 3 companies right here, right? The 3 that were named in the lawsuit, I bet you they've got board members from each one of those things. From Alto, from... Yeah, Wes Christensen's the lawyer on this docket. So, yeah, I can't search this document. I guess it's because it's a picture instead of an actual PDF. So, but this is super interesting because I think this is going to get messy. I mean, it's possible they just don't have a case because they signed the agreement. You know, they can claim it was under duress and they didn't have a opportunity, but like in the meantime, the shares, ugh. Just as GNS gets to the 200 DMA. Hey, you were looking at the charts there? Look in the main chat room. Okay, hold on. Let me go to the main chat room real quick. By keeping secret and failing to report the fact that Alto had already purported to convert and gain access to over 48 million shares of GNS and intends to distribute these shares into the public market, defendants are trading on material non-public information that's in violation of Section 10B of the Exchange Act and Rule of 10b-5. According to the SPA note, and other transaction documents are void. Pursuant to Section 29B of the Exchange Act. 29B says basically that every contract made in violation of any provision of this chapter or rule, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read this whole thing out for you guys, but hold on, let me see. So they're saying that basically because they're converting these things over without actually being in compliance with these 2 rules, then all these transaction documents are void. Is that what they're saying? That's interesting. Wow. So this contract would be null and void, basically, right? That's their argument going into it, that basically that they violated I guess part of the thing, and so this contract would be null and void, which means that they have a mess now, right? Because they're clearly diluting on the stock, but they're not actually reporting it, right? Because if they're just selling off shares onto the market, I mean, is that the naked shorting that they're talking about then, right? Because essentially what they're doing is they're selling shares, but they're not reporting that they actually have the shares, but they're not also telling the float that it's going up. Like the shares outstanding hasn't changed besides the jump to 37 million. Yeah. Yeah. Cutting some grass. Where are you living, man? Where do you live where you can cut grass? It's dark out where I'm at. You must be on the West Coast. All right, so let's take a look, see what's going on. All right, so what else were we looking at? Oh, what's up? DZ's in with us. You guys want to get him on here? DZ, you want to jump on? Oh, he's ready to join. Cool. We can have you on. What's up, Loa, man? What's up? Treka, we took a look at this. The only thing I saw though was, aren't they in negotiations with Jeffries right now? And that's what kind of, they canceled they canceled some of the didn't they cancel the ATM or something like that, or the convertibles, but they're also at the same time negotiating with Jeffries? Oh, you have a lit backyard. Nice. Yeah, if I remember correctly, right? They withdrew the warrants or something, or the convertibles, right? Yeah, I think they withdrew them, and then essentially what they're doing is they're working with Jeffries. But that, to me, that feels like dilution's coming at some point. It's just, in the meantime, sure, like they don't need like the cash right now. Like technically, they went cash flow positive. I have to see let's take a look at their filings and just see how much cash they have. What was this one? This is the amended one. Does it show though? Does it have a balance sheet on here? Let's just do this. Cash. Too many caches. Oh, I saw some. That's net loss. Should be a balance sheet up here, right? That's revenue. Did they not? Okay, they have a weird. Okay. Just want to see how much they have in cash. Net loss. They break this up weird. Cash flow discussions. All right, let's see. Net cash used in operations increased from 0.3 million to 7.1. Okay, so they did increase that, a whole bunch. Net cash used. I just want to see how much cash is left as of the. You know what? This is the amended. Let me go to the 10Q because I'm sure it's probably presented better there. Here we go. Cash assets. They had 32 million unaudited. I mean, that looks fine to me. Do have a good amount of liabilities. So you do have technically a positive, but what's their cash burn? Technically, if they're cash flow positive, then they wouldn't have a cash burn. So, I mean, they did better, right? Didn't they beat on the earnings or something? Or is that earnings coming up? Let's take a look. Where is there? Did they already have their earnings? Is that what the gap up is? What are their earnings normally? Is there one from March? Let me see. So that was IPO or SPAC, wherever they came out of. That is June. That's probably what, like second, third, fourth. So this would have been their first quarter, right? No, that's fourth quarter. No, that's February, so that'd be first quarter. So did they just have an earnings that I'm just not seeing? You would expect it to be roughly in this range. Yeah, but this is what I'm worried about, is this Troca retains Jeffries to optimize their capital structure. To me, that sounds like they're pushing out some deal any day. But, I mean, they're having a nice run, so you've got a gap, though, right here, but you have a ton of gaps up. So, like, at this point right now, you could see it back test this gap and then maybe go up. But let's get DZ on here. You want to do Zoom? Let me get you on here. Okay, let me shoot him the link. And I think I have to figure out, I think I have to put on my headphones. Let me put on my headphones real quick. All right. Headphones are on. Now I need to pull up Zoom. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I'm just worried about the dilution coming at some point. I'm not sure when it's going to come and how big. They don't need the money per se, but it's just, I think this is my concern. So because you have interest rates going up. There's going to be some companies who are going to try to take advantage of the fact that they can basically raise, cash this way, and not have to go to a traditional bank and get a loan that's paying like that you're going to have to pay like 5% or 6% on. So obviously it might be even higher for that for some of these like corporate structures. I don't know. It just all depends. But either way, why do that when you can you've got interest in your stock and you can do it. So that's my only concern. But let me find Zoom real quick. I moved all my icons around now. I can't find it. Here it is. Okay, I've got to update Zoom real quick. So please bear with me. But yeah, I mean, you can see right here, you've got a ton of bear gaps down. You've got a couple down here where the bull gapped up, and I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty large gap right there. If you wanted to play this in the temporary, like this stock can move. I mean, all right, so new meeting. Okay. Join with computer audio. Okay, I've got that there. Participants invite. Copy invitation. Give DZ the, oh wait, hold on. Copy link, okay. Okay, so there's that. And then I think, do I have to turn on? Here, let's do this. Turn off that. And then I think I have to do something on OBS to make it actually like, so you can hear him. Efra, DJ. All right, can you hear me? Oh, he's connecting with audio. Can you hear me? Good. All right, can you guys hear him? I think I have to hit this button to like unmute you on the stream.
Can you guys hear him? I think I have to hit this button.
Okay. Can you guys hear him now?
I hear echo.
Hold
on, I think it's on. Hold up. That's. Never mind. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you guys on the stream hear him?
Echo.
Anyone?
Looks like yes.
Okay, good.
All right.
How's it going, man?
Man, it's been wild.
Yeah, tell us about your travels, man.
Yeah, so let's see here. Yeah, Thanksgiving, Colorado, December in Chicago for a conference, Pennsylvania immediately after for the holidays. Then quick trip back to Oklahoma to get ready for a conference in Denver. Come back to Oklahoma for about a week and a half, and then back to Denver again for another trip. And then I fly from Denver to Long Island to give a public seminar at Brookhaven National Laboratory, met with all the scientists there. And then I fly back, and then another conference in Boulder, Colorado. And then I spent pretty much the entire last week with my family there. And
that's good.
Yeah, so that's been fun. But no, like first day in Oklahoma, like F2 tornado directly over top of my apartment here, completely, well.
Yeah, we saw you posted that picture on the Discord, and I was like, what? Like,
yeah, we got, it was, that was something I never thought I would experience, let alone like literally like after, the trip like that. Yeah, true Oklahoma welcome, I guess, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, you study that stuff anyway, so you know all about it.
Yeah, so it's like tornadoes, like I have a pretty good feel for them. Like I've gone chasing with them, and there's certain parts that you try to like, you always want to be a little south and a little east, away from like the anvil clouds and away from where all the rain and hail would move towards you. But I open up my radar app and I'm like, okay, I'll go outside and watch. And then I look and I see the velocity couplet over top of me. I'm like, shit. So I grabbed a bunch of blankets, a water, my laptop, phone charger, and just sat in my bathtub. And Yeah, and then a couple
Was
minutes
that
go
scary?
by. Kind of a little unnerving, I'll say, because I'm like, well, shit, I have all my stuff out there, I didn't really have a chance to like, I just had to like run,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know, and then I heard the wind really picking up, and then my ears just like exploded, like it wasn't loud, but the pressure drop inside a tornado, like it makes your ears pop. My ears were ringing pretty much all night, and I woke up yesterday with some dizziness and some nausea. Like that was pretty. It was pretty wild. So like I needed time to kind of just get my bearing straight. I guess just physically, I guess if that makes sense. Like that was of all the things to happen. Like that was the thing I least expected because like my truck did not take a single scratch. There were a ton of trees down, but nothing fell into other people's vehicles or anything.
Oh,
Nobody got hurt, thankfully. Yeah, just a lot of power lines down there. Like they fell into like other trees and onto the highway. So I've had to like to get anywhere fast, like to go from like here down the road to get like milk and cereal was like it's like a 30-minute round trip for like 2 miles.
Swerving in and out of trees and
yeah. So it's
all right. So tell me something about the weather, man. I got some boil year out calls.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying to find the bottom and I missed it obviously by like a week. Went down even further, but then it came back to where I'm almost even on them. But when is natural gas going to go up?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of on its way there. So I guess I've been so I obviously have done very little in the way of trading over the last like month and a half. But boil. I mean, aside from what I have in ATER, like boil ATER, a little bit of XOSX here and there, and then a couple memes that I entered over the last like day and a half as I started like getting, just
back into the swing. Yeah. So,
yeah,
I mean, so natural gas, obviously, it's contingent on a couple things, right? So obviously the colder it is, right? Isn't that usually one of the indicators? Everyone's been pricing in basically that we're having a very mild winter across the world.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think a couple of things went into that. So yeah, I've been in and out of boil a lot myself here, but instead, like the nice thing, at least with boil too, because it's a levered ETF, I trade boil based on what natural gas futures are doing, which is NG1. Because every like percent up it goes, boil actually tracks it pretty nicely, like every 2% or so.
Yeah.
And what you
want to pull up a chart? Oh wait,
well, I need a screen
share. Yeah, permissions. Sorry about that.
All good. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, because I think all right. Okay, I think we should be able to see my screen here.
Yeah. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, you'll have to let me know because
I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously Natty's
falling nice.
Yeah.
I was sitting there watching and I'm like, okay, no, not yet. And there where I right there, that false breakout, not there. I bought it, I think pretty close to there. And then it went down even more, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
I was like, "At this point, they're going to be basically paying you to take natural gas."
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue because places like Germany, most European countries, they really stocked up, back in the fall season, preparing for and expecting a pretty bad winter, but they ended up with a really mild winter. So now that they have all this excess natural gas and now that the new supply is coming in, like part of the reason I think like why there was this giant flush down was all due to like they just needed to send supply like elsewhere. It's not all that dissimilar from what happened to oil, like, March through May of 2020, whenever, the COVID pandemic started and they had nowhere to park oil. So people, they were literally paying people to take oil. So I think, but yeah, I mean, obviously, like, when natty gas is getting down, into like the dollar handle, obviously,
it's
fundamentally
at some point,
it has to, So it's like, there's that thesis, obviously, where it totally makes sense. It's not something that you can manipulate your way around in terms of like, having that too much excess supply and like the price has to go down, therefore oil has to go down. But yeah, I think we're getting to the end of the wintertime season here. A lot of that supply is finally being used up, and demand, I think, at this point as well is being tempered a little bit, to try to moderate the price a little bit here and get it back to $5, $6, $7 or whatever. But
yeah,
because obviously like my gas bill in Oklahoma here has only been going up, although this has been going down for straight 2 straight months or so.
Yeah, I mean it got so cheap, and I'm sitting there going like, probably should have stocked up on propane.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so yeah, I'd say honestly, like I've done quite well on this. Like I had a couple like a week, like 2 weeks ago, I took a couple $5 calls, I think, on Boyle, and I just let them ride out, and I closed them, I think, a day or two ago. The first time it reached a 650, so
nice.
That was nice. I was able to pay for plane ticket with those, to go see a friend out in Pennsylvania for a wedding here in late April.
Very cool.
So that was that was pretty nice. But yeah, the only I guess thing with Boyle, I guess, because it's natty gas, like every 10 cents this goes down will crush Boyle by about 30 to 40 cents or so. So you got to be tactical, I guess, in your calls. And I guess I don't know, this is just me personally, like how I've been playing it. Like there's obviously this level here that's kind of between this 260 and 230 or so. So like if for any reason it gets back here, because one, it's a big volume shelf, two, it's a important fib level, and three, this is also where
it's basically consolidated, and then that's where I thought basically it was going to go back up. It looked like it was just starting to come out, and I'm like, okay. I saw the volume picking up. I'm like, all right, this is the reversal. And then it went down more, and I'm like, okay, maybe that's a spring.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I don't know. I think just with it really hasn't tracked the rest of the market so much. So it's hard to say if I think it's gonna react independently, I think, of the rest of the market or whatever.
Well, I was just wondering, so some of these winter storms that we're just hearing about, that's basically when they started, the prices went back up, right?
And then Freeport, I think also, I think they had news, I think, recently saying they're pretty, on the right track to getting reopened again. And I think when that closed, that's whenever the plunge really started as well, because that, I think, limited, I forget, normally you would think something that, cuts off demand would
raise prices. Yeah.
But it ended up having the opposite effect. At least that's how I understood it when I, saw it was oh, it's down 30% in several days or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the winter storms though. So
yeah, I just want a nice spike, and then I'm just selling.
Yeah.
I was playing the $9 for an IV spike basically. Because I gave it plenty of theta. I was like, I'm going to buy a year out. So basically, I'm just playing
Oh, yeah. I would say, give it 3 months tops, and that should probably pay really nicely, I bet. Because, here at 250. So anything, 250 to 350 is a $3. That's a 66% move, which would be 122% in Boyle, right? And Boyle right now is what, 650?
Yep.
So that would put it at well north of $13 at least.
Yep. And so I figured if I can even just get up to where I'm in the money at $9, that's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be a nice move. And so.
And I think, I think the people, everybody listening here, obviously, can't tell people what to buy or sell, but this, I think, is just, we've spent so much time looking at stocks, and one of the things that we've seen, time and time again are these, what they call V-shaped recoveries. The market had a V-shaped recovery right after COVID. Tesla had a V-shaped recovery.
It was very, very steep.
Yeah. So this is one of those where if natty gas goes from, people buy Boyle and just want to hold it and, hopefully wait, 6 months to a year or so, 250, 270 right now. So 540 is 100%. So 200% movement. Boyle would be, 600, 1200 or 650, 13. That'd be back over $20 easily.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I'm not getting greedy on it. I'm just going to take profit, but I bought them just for an IV spike, a real nice. I think at some point it's going to go back up to at least, $4 or $5 for natural gas. So.
Oh yeah, it's got this kind of double bottom here. So 470, and 541 for sure easily. It's got a little bit of a vacuum though here, like from this like $3, well, really from 388ish or so, just all the way up to 450, 490 or so. So I wouldn't be surprised if that coincides with like the second Russian invasion or whatever, or something geopolitical.
Something that's going to send the rest of the market tanking.
Yeah, and then natural gas, just going through the roof again.
What do you have for the SPY? Because I've been eyeing it. Obviously, there's two gaps left up, and then there's do you use? Okay, you obviously use a couple different things. Like I circled mine and put like, is this like because once you broke over that trend, we basically had the same trend line, right? It was traveling that down travel. It broke up over it falsely once, and then got pushed back down, and then it broke through, and then ran up to what was like 418. And there's actually a gap sitting there at 421, I think.
Yeah,
you see it right there. It's like 421. Yep, right there. So like I thought it was going to fill that, and then it dropped again, and I'm like, just chopping this thing around.
Yep, and they sure did for several.
But there are a ton of gaps to fill on the down, down to I think like 280. I don't think it's gonna go that low, but like there's ones at like 320.
Did you say 280 or 380?
I think it's like 280.
Oh,
SPY. Yeah, like if actually you have all the paid indicator things, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever done I think it's called gap indicator or gap finder. Try that for indicators.
Let me see here.
I like it. I think it's called gap detector. There it is. Try that one. You don't have you got too many other.
Actually, let me kill one of I don't really use BBBY. So let's use
gap detector, I think.
Yeah. Detector. Yep. There we go.
That's a nice little tool I found. So, but you can see right there. It tells you also where they are. And if it's a bear gap or a bull gap. But if you zoom out a little bit, look at the gaps below.
Yeah, sure. I'll find the weekly here.
Oh, it may not show up on the weekly though. That's a weekly gap, I think. I think you still have to do days. You just zoom out. There, look at that. Look at all those gaps on the bull gaps.
Oh, yeah.
And they go all the way down to what, like 260?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I listened to a thing by Jim Rickards recently. Like he is like mega bear, as bearish as they come, I guess, and he thinks like it could get all the way down to 2,600. I saw an interesting tweet tonight, actually. I think it's by High Yield 6. Pretty popular trading account, I guess. And then, he posited that, since 2018 when the SPY was, or the SPX was about 2,900. We've added $10 trillion in debt for the equivalent of about 1,000 points in the SPX, from 2,900 to 3,900. Let that sink in.
Wow.
And I'm just like, wow, yeah. Like, so now that we have to pay that debt back, where's that money going to come from?
The raising rates and the job market's still like doing fine. So, that, and doesn't that nicely coincide with your
Yeah, so I made this chart over a month ago,
but doesn't before. Look, it fills that gap, right?
Yeah, I think it will. Yeah, it'll fill. I think it's going to fill some of these down gaps first, but it's got a little bit of congestion to go through here first. Like today, it broke the 50 DMA, then broke above it, but also hit this trend line again. Rejected yesterday, tagged it again today, and seems like it's ready to catch up to these rates here. And then the other thing too, I read this from I think Charlie McElligott and Michael Hartnett, I guess, with their recent flow notes. They talked about how seasonally, like March ends up being one of the historically worst months, and especially in like odd years, like in between like presidential election cycles, where at this point, all the volatility's been sold off in the market. So like you had all this, supportive flow, helping keep, the SPY, the SPX, between 45 and 14, 41, 4150, 4,150, I should say. But now that VIX is basically back at 20, bond yields are through the roof right now. And obviously earnings were not that great this past quarter here. So like, and you have to think too, like on the ground, my family, like they're all complaining, like inflation's still through the roof. They're, definitely making a lot less money than they were, a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So they're not, just average people are not saving right now. So where is this money coming from that's going to go into the market to keep these valuations supported right now? So, but the one caveat, of course, is that, you don't really see a market bottom until the Fed starts cutting rates. And because inflation's still persistent, like part of my thinking, at least when I made this chart, was like, okay, it'll see a correction, based on the fact that yields are likely to get back to 4%. But because yields are still going up, there'll be another pivot bounce where everyone's like, oh yeah, it's time to cut rates again, and that's going to be great for stocks, and everything's going to be good again, and then you'll see
that's where the biggest drop is.
Yep. So
we've talked about this. When they start cutting rates, that's when the biggest drop comes, because that's what everybody else is going. Oh, it's time to buy back in. Everyone else is selling.
Suckers rally, yeah. Like look at NVIDIA. Did you see what happened with NVIDIA today?
No, I didn't look at NVIDIA today.
Oh, yeah. So that was a big one. So, well, I want to come back to the SPY here, but let's chat it. So NVIDIA, they had, they were starting to, they drop. They had what I thought was like okay earnings. Like they had a top and a bottom line beat, but year over year, they missed by like 16%. So 16% year over year decrease in earnings, puts them back to where they were back in, February, March of 2022 or so, so pretty much right when the bear market was starting here, and then, it's basically hanging up here for a couple of days. I see, 3 of their board members sold, really large positions, like anywhere between 7,500 and 15,000 shares each.
Oh, wow. That's a good amount of money based off of 200.
Yeah. So there's, so they get this, what I think is a bogus earnings beat here. They had already cut expectations twice. They're selling a ton here. And then they come out after hours today saying they're doing a $10 billion shelf offering.
To raise more money.
Yeah, to raise more money. Yeah. So now they're about to dump 10 billion and, new NVIDIA shares like onto the market after a massive gap up here. And obviously, if you're the company, like, of course you're going to do that to dump money because, this is already at what, 100, 110 or something like that. It's lofted.
What times earning? Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, I like NVIDIA. Like I've always used their supercomputer chips, but like here, like you're really not that far off, like the bubble, like top here. So
do you think it fills that gap
to the upside? Well, no, not if they're about to dump
10
10 billion. And I think
I think it's going to fill some of those bear gap or bull gaps.
I think so. Yeah, it'll fill these bull gaps. I think. Yeah, I would think somewhere in this 180 to 170, and then that would probably coincide with the SPY balancing at like 380, 378 or so. Assuming the market, catches up to, 3.9% 10-year rates, in the, next week or two or so.
Yeah. And that's something I think we need to do more of in our Discord, is kind of track the bonds, because that's something I think is really important, especially when you're looking at the overall market. And that's something we've talked about building some bots in Python to scrape data and maybe try to kind of really, or even put out charts to kind of just explain what an inverted yield curve is. And there's a lot of stuff we need to.
Yeah. Cause yields are extremely important here because one thing that, a lot of, at least analysts, they talk about is the fact that, you can buy a 10-year treasury bond. It's guaranteed to yield. What is it right now? 3.92, 3.93%.
Yep.
The average S&P dividend right now is, half of that. It's like 1.8 to 1.9% or so. So you'll make double your money over 10 years compared to the S&P right now.
Which is not,
Just park your money in a 10-year bond right now. So
that's what the smart money's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Because, even with this, Well, it kind of depends, I guess, because, the more the market plays chicken with the Fed, the more we get structural inflation. But whenever they decide, okay, we'll just let it dump, then suddenly we're going to get a massive deflation event, which will cause the Fed basically, like, they'll have no choice but to, gut rates again, to like, 1-2% or whatever.
Yeah, because I remember they were saying basically that like last year, or I guess the year before, bond traders were just like, what's going on? Because everything seemed like backwards to what it should have been. And then this year is finally when they kind of like, okay, now we kind of, they were saying bond traders are usually the smarter ones on the market. But like last year, they kind of got like caught many times. Like, what is like, this is not what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, normally, like, normally bonds go up when stocks don't go down and vice versa. And I think that was like one of the first times like ever in history where you got that sort of, divergence.
Yeah, because I mean, you would think that those things make sense, but when you look at most of the major crashes, everything went down all at once. Like, I'm sure if we went back like to like the 08 or the like, everything crashed at the same time, and people were like, well, "Where am I supposed to put my money?" And like, cash was the better deal.
Yeah.
No, I mean that you see it bounce perfectly off that, and
off the 200 DMA. That's wild that can do that. Even, like, you're supposed to be pricing bonds based on where you expect inflation to be in the future, but
it's just trading more algorithms. That's algos, man. They're like, all right, time to buy.
Is inflation actually going up, or are the algos? Yeah, it's like, time to buy the 200. So if you sold bonds here or shorted them here, you've made a crap ton of money. Going from 3.3 to 3.9.
Yeah.
Damn, that is a fast ramp. That's what, like, less than a month or so to go like, plus 0.6%.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's not good. And I think too that we should also take a look at
the dollar.
Yeah, the cousin here. Yeah, this is another one here. I like these regression channels. Like, I've started using them a little bit more just to see, kind of get a gauge of.
Which one is that? I don't think I've used that one before. I've drawn them out, but I've never.
Yeah, I think they're, if you go to trend line and then regression trend, you just kind of pick 2 points between like here and here per se.
Yeah, okay. I've done it where it just makes the channel, but it doesn't fill in the top and the bottom.
Yeah, well, you can always expand like what
deviations. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I like about 2 to 2.5 or so. Yeah, so that'll usually get it pretty cleanly, but yeah, like for short-term swing trading, I found it to be an extra like helpful tool where, like, if it gets to the top of a blue zone, you kind of sell it there, and then if it gets too far to the bottom, like, you buy, and then if it breaks out of the bottom, well, you managed your risk pretty well. But like, you figure like something here, like, you get 1 buy, 2 buy, 3 buys, and then 1, maybe a sell there. I don't know. 2, you've done pretty well, playing those swings, with that. So.
Yes, do you actually do anything with DXY, or?
I usually don't. Like, I've watched like UUP, I think, is the main ETF, I guess, that tracks the dollar index. So when DXY goes up, the UUP goes up. But I've never actually like played it directly. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to. Or sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, for me right now, I've never really messed with the dollar. I just know there's strong correlation between obviously the SPY and the dollar.
Like, it's pretty strong, and it looks like if I were a betting person here, so there's all these, it's about 104.8 right now. So another point in the dollar, that would bring the S&P down probably another. 3 to 5% or so, I would think, just based on the fact that, from 101 to 104, that brought it down 7-8% already. So
and so
that's
I just want to explain so for anyone that is wondering why that is, It's because earnings are reported in U.S. dollars, right? And a lot of these bigger companies are international, so like a strong dollar actually affects earnings way more than people realize. Are you is that the same thing you're talking about? As far as earnings, especially though, like if
yeah, exactly, yeah, because I think well, I was having an interesting discussion with my uncle in Colorado about this because, like, he hasn't done anything in the stock market in probably 15 or 20 years or so, but he used to mention, like, at one point when the United States dollar went up, generally the market went up because most American companies, they track the United States dollar. So, like, when your underlying currency got better, so did, most of the products, at home. So therefore American stocks went up. But because so many
everything's international now,
there's international exposure everywhere. So when your dollar goes up, that means your currency is getting stronger relative to the other currencies. And because people were buying your products in their currencies, they get less purchasing power.
Exactly.
Therefore.
So when you have a large market like Apple, who is reporting Europe and South America and, like Asia, that's a huge difference because now all of a sudden theirs are going down. So you're not making as, your earnings are basically being affected by that.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Globalization.
Yeah. It's like, do corporations really want, do they want to see our, the home economy weaken so that they can strengthen their overseas profits, which is where so many of them come from, especially in the NASDAQ, really.
Yeah. So
as far as I know, or as far as I understand it anyways, but maybe an oversimplification, but yeah, anyhow, just in terms of trends here. So I don't know. This is all the, I don't know.
Looks like you have a balance point coming up, right?
Yeah, it looks like, yeah. So if it's at about 104.8, another, it looks like, the DXY will have another 2 points or so to get, like, it'll get up to, what EMA is this here? 150. The 200 and the 150 or so.
One of those two is probably a bounce point, and then.
Yeah, so I think, but it's got total clearance really to just zoom up here. They might even get that by next week or so, and that would be incredible if. Yeah, Mr. Hartnett from Bank of America, he doesn't really he does everything, but like his specialty is mostly like medium term swings of like on the order of weeks or so. And he called like, when it was like 408, like right after it started dropping, he's like, yep, it didn't break 420. Therefore, we should see 3,800 in this SPX by March 8th, I think. And, if the DXY tracks, here over the next, 7 days, that'll definitely put the SPX in that 3,800 range or so, coupled with yields, of course, too.
Yeah, not gonna have my 365 calls yet or puts, but
yeah, as I say, you'll need a pretty fast drop.
Yeah, I mean, at this point now, I may have to just sell and take a bit of a loss and then reposition.
Right.
But yeah, so I was gonna say, I haven't really been touching anything on the VIX just because I don't think there's anything major coming.
Yeah, I've lost so much money on the UVXY. Like I've more or less given that up just because there's opportunity costs like elsewhere. And now that I have a much better understanding of like,
the M1, M2, and like you basically just need a market crash for the UVXY to go up significantly.
Yeah, and like vertically up to like, 600. Like historically, like it does go up 700%, but like if you've already lost like 90% of your position, 700% barely gets you back to break even.
Yep.
So I don't know.
I used to play TVIX, which was like 3x leverage.
Oh, yeah.
That was rough because
yeah.
if you didn't sell out on one of the swings, it was like, and now I'm down 70%.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you all see this here too, but I think this seems to be in the making here. So I don't know, yeah, I could see maybe by next week you get VIX to like 23, 24 or so, and then it's, again, these vol control algorithms, I'll see VIX is at its 200 DMA, and then it's just going to sell the crap out about the money options, and maybe that's where we get our short squeeze, if it's going to try, you know, if like it bounces like vigorously from like 3,800 back to like 4,000 to close a bunch of gaps up there.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So yeah, that I don't know.
Inverse head and shoulders there, and just whoop.
Yeah. So like you see how this is all coming together here. At least this is just me thinking out loud here. You know, I'm obviously, you know, I'm a schmuck like everybody else here, you know, just trying to figure out a way to make some money off of this here. But yeah, if it does something like that and then who knows, maybe a bigger test and then does something like that and then retest and then.
Have you studied at all any of the Elliott waves, or are you like?
I did a little bit. Yeah, I know you have like your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC counts and all that. And
I'll be honest, like I always thought it was a bit of like, it seemed like every time anyone was doing Elliott waves, they're always wrong.
Yeah,
whatever their prediction was, it's always wrong.
Yeah, it's a good thought exercise, but like the effort versus reward when, you know, just doing more simple things like Fibonacci retraces and just figuring out where your major DMAs are, like, then a general mean reversion strategy, you know, that's
seems a little more, yeah.
Yeah, that's been helping me out a lot more anyways, you know, just being able to, you know, take a little bit of money off the table like here and there when I have time for it, obviously. But yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, it looks like our dollar, maybe does something like that. And then, you know, the Fed maybe hints like, oh, yeah, you know, we might pivot again and then up reinflation. And then, I don't know. I have no idea really like what the dollar's going to do. Yeah.
Who knows nowadays?
Yeah, but like, yeah, you have like two things here that are working. You know, any sort of like increase in volatility and any sort of increase in the dollar index are going to be headwinds for equities, of course. And then going to treasuries, give me just a second.
Earthium wanted to tell you that ATER's going to a penny.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah.
we got about 5 minutes. You want to just? I'll go ahead and cancel now and just start a new one.
Yeah. Well,
give me a second.
We'll talk yields and then we'll move over to ATER. So all right. Yeah. All right.
I'll just end it now and then I'll just send you the thing.
All right, hold sounds on a second. Good. All right.
New meeting. Let me send him a link. All right. Let's send that over to him. Is he on yet? No, not yet. Okay, well, how's everyone doing? All right, let's see. Flash sale. I'd buy 200,000 shares. I mean, all right, so while we wait for, there he is.
All right.
What's up? I gave you the ability to screen share.
Sweet. All righty, let's
get to what the people want, man.
Yeah, I don't think they want to hear me talking about treasury bonds too much, and maybe a little more on our favorite meme songs here, because
we're all stuck.
Yeah. Jeez. All right.
I mean, they've had some good news, which is good, but I was gonna say, like, it's one of those things. It's gonna be a slow, like, there's gonna be the overall markets, you know, blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like a couple weeks ago. So like when ATER was like around, like it peaked. I think it got up to like 65, and then just kind of bled down to like 137. I'm like, okay, I think it's gonna get to like 125, 130, or like I ended up buying a bunch at 131, but immediately sold like $2 March 17 covered calls on them because they were trading at like I think, yeah, the bid ask was like 12 to 15, and I ended up getting them for 13 each or so. So it's like, I bought at 131, sold against, for 13, so basically keeping my cost basis at $1.18 or so. And like, sure enough, like, just kind of really just painful low volume. Like this, like, I don't know, like it went up on like, obviously like high volume here. Like it had this big spike, right around OPEX in January. And then, like still continued upward on, higher, but slightly decreasing volume. And then just like this bleed out volume here.
Yep.
What ended up happening here, and this is actually quite promising. If, I know like the rest of the market's dog shit, right? Well, sort of dog shit right now.
I mean, ATER in the past has ran when against the market, if you
it
remember.
has, yeah.
So
and this,
remember, like it ran basically until like the Ukrainian thing.
Yeah. So like I posted this, I think 2 days ago on my stock twits, right before I, read out, like got my Discord updated on my laptop here and had a chance to open it here. But like, this is very clearly inside a falling wedge, and the bottom of this falling wedge is right at this giant volume
Support
shelf where, ATER traded for, between that,
the
97
loading zone. That's
the loading zone. So it looks like, the algo is just falling wedge this thing back to the loading zone here. So I think, and then you got a nice big candle actually out of it. So I think, I don't know, like I put some bids in. I think I put one in at like $1.13. I ended up not getting that filled, sadly. And then I was like, if it goes below like $1.10 for any reason, then maybe it does, because, when it breaks out of these wedges, it likes to, overshoot it for a day or two, and then it'll bounce, kind of in the middle of the volume zone or so, but on much, much lower volume. And maybe that coincides with like the SPY breaking below like 30, 390 or something like that. And then
we actually have earnings coming up too. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. Just in time, right?
Yep.
And what do? You buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yep, exactly. So I don't know. I think, maybe tomorrow's a good day to, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
let's get to the, I've been migrating away from like Webull and Robinhood, and gradually moving everything that I have into the TD Ameritrade. And let me tell you, that's nice.
Yeah, Thinkorswim. That's what I use.
I should have been using that all along, but
hey,
that's the point. Yeah.
So yeah, you notice we finished what 120 today. So I mean, I'm just wondering, is this when like this? We're gonna have a nice little run up before earnings. Because I was seeing the same thing as you. I was like, okay, we're obviously in this downward pattern. The question is, there is a gap, I believe, at 97 cents. It's a tiny gap, but I believe there is a gap at like 97 cents. Is that right?
Yeah, from like.
So I wasn't sure if it was going to get down and fill that gap and then bounce, or if it was going to go like around. Because this has been like a strong area of support in the past. So I'm like. Because this is actually where I think the book value on the stock is. So this is like a very comfortable level for them to be at.
Yeah. But I think that like over the course of a stock's lifetime, though, like I know like Tesla, for example, they have gaps all the way down to like, anywhere in like the $5, $15, $20 range, I think, just because, it's after trading like in that range for so long, at some point you just go up and you just stay up.
Yeah, and I was going to say, there's going to be this was basically caused by the dilution, and also we actually found out some good information. So I don't know if you caught this, but because I know you're getting caught up on everything, but Gamer UK basically saw that when we Armistice on their 13Fs had sold their entire 6.6 million shares.
Oh wow!
So if you think about this and go back to basically that the gap down where there's still a gap.
Yeah,
right there. Keep going. Yeah, right there.
Yep.
So right there, Armistice would have known that they are basically going to dilute the crap out of the stock and also have shares and warrants. What we find out is, so they reported that they had the 6 million shares of Ethereum, and now we just found out they have 0. So did they short there and just push the stock price down. That's why it went sub 1 for a while, and then they
Mm-hmm.
covered, which sent the stock price back up. Because they had the
Possibly.
ability,
Well,
yeah. Because if you look at the volume, it's not that high, so they would have just bled off Ethereum this entire time, right? That just push it
yeah,
down hugely, get as many shares as you can on the first day, and then kind of
yeah.
just bleed it out through this period. You get rid of the
Mhm.
rest of them there. That way, that clears them up. Because remember, they can't own more than 9.99% of the
Mhm.
the stock. So they get rid of those shares. They made money shorting it, right? Even though they were losing it because they paid, I believe, like 124 or something like that on the shares they
Mhm.
bought. You're selling them up there at the beginning at what, like 2 something. You get as
Mhm.
many as you can out those like first 2 days, and then essentially
Yeah.
at that point you're still making money as long as you're selling it, or even if you're fine taking a little bit of loss. If you shorted it up there, if you shorted a bunch up there,
Mhm.
you knew they were going to come to you doing dilution, so you shorted a whole bunch of them in the 2s, and then it doesn't matter if you're selling for a loss on the
Mhm.
shares if you're making more money on the shorts.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we figured out what they did there and how they were going to be
Mhm.
able to manage this, because we were like, are they going to have 2 run-ups? Because we know they have warrants, at
Mhm.
$2 and $3.20.
Mhm.
So we were trying to figure out, are they going to run it up first before earnings and then maybe run it back down? And then, because they can't unlock the shares until April 4th for the $2 warrants.
Mm. Gotcha. Yeah.
So, yeah, just a little context to help you, with the charts.
Yeah. That's quite helpful. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, those tips there.
So, and the other thing with the warrants is, so a gamer also was talking to me, and he's like, all right, so Ethereum would raise more cash when the warrants are actually exercised, right? So they get the $2, right? They paid 66 cents as basically the premium to basically hold the rights to the warrants, right? So
Mhm.
for them to actually be profitable on those, you would have to be over 2.66 for them to see any profit on those warrants.
Mhm.
So the question is, how much are they going to push it up? They also have warrants at 320. So are they waiting till April 4th so they can just do the $2 ones and they're just going to leave the $3 ones to hedge? Or is it going to be...
Mhm.
So interesting to kind of think.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about
If
too.
they do
So,
do a warrant run, for example, just to, maybe make some money on the upside so they can reshort it down,
mhm.
where could we go from here?
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I know on the upside, obviously, one, I think
That
everyone in
gap.
the father, there's this massive gap all the way up to $1.87, and it tried, it got to 168, 169, kind of the top of where it started, the free fall on the first dilution day here. But there's actually, there's 2 up here, one at, one between 234 and 238 or so, and then 249 all the way up to 260 or so. Because this might have been here like one of them, short things where Armistice might be buying, day trading calls, running the price up to the open, and then selling the crap out of it up there. Like there was a little bit of a volume
Yeah,
spike
you
there.
push it up there, right? You
Mm-hmm.
short.
Yep. Yeah, and then that's a very bearish island reversal pattern right there, I'll say.
Well, I mean, they at that point they knew they were going to be diluting very soon, right?
Yeah.
So they were going to announce it. They had Ethereum announce that positive day, and then I think
Mm-hmm.
they were selling shares the entire time.
I think they were too.
Does that
Yeah,
make
they might have
sense?
even been selling here too. Yeah, where they got the top of, again, I guess, people on Stock Twist, they call this the DZ wedge here because I've had this on my chart for like 8 months or 6 months at this point.
Yep.
It's like, I think they're going to do this here. Sure enough, going all the way back to the April one, the one that got a lot of people sucked in here. But anyhow, like there's one gap here. Yeah, there's a gap all the way up to 316, I'll say too.
Yep.
So there's a lot, but it's 250 though. That's gonna be a tough nut to crack here because there's so many shares traded like in this range here, and I realized too, like these volume like levels, they tend to act as magnets. So like when ATER does eventually run again, assuming, it gets, bigger volume push and it more cleanly breaks, I guess it's, 150 MA here and it gets above buck 66. But as soon as it gets like 166, it's probably going to 180 like really quickly. Kind of like what
because it'll hit basically what's your black?
What's my what?
What's the black upper line?
Black is 200.
Okay, that's your 200.
Yeah, so
that's probably where it will.
Yep. So yeah, it might even be. I don't know. Like
by the time it gets there, 170s.
I mean, well, even then. So one thing. So I don't know. I noticed this as a pattern with a lot of meme stocks, but the 200 DMA is obviously like it's one of the most important like technical indicators like in any trading application you do, of course. And like the first time, like since it's been under the 200 for so many days, like it actually like it briefly got it. Way back here in August, during the August rally, like I think
almost tagged it. Yeah.
Like,
did it tag it?
I think
it got close.
Yeah, 358. It says it's 364, 366. But I guess, if it's like a different EMA, maybe it depends on how you calculate it. But close enough, I guess, for in this case. But they tend to, they'll do a run up and then it'll like go really far above it and then it'll close just below it. So like it'll do like a giant wick above it, so like, if it's going to get to, let's say, the 200 comes all the way down to like 160, 170, it might wick it to, close a gap here and then like close it below. And then the next day it gaps up above it and then, goes, closes below it. And then at that point, that's the type of pattern I think like you'd look for when, does a test and then it closes above it the next day below the third day. And then that consolidates under that 200 DMA, maybe ping pongs between there and another, resistance level. So I think you have one of the more bullish things for the stock would probably be, just get 186 first, ping it between, buck 50 and a buck 70, buck 80, whatever, let it go a little bit and then let it challenge 237 or so. So, but people that are getting in the stock now and, if these charts come true, that's, there's going to be some good, just swing trading opportunities, I think, with the stock just on top of, people who are buying it way down here. Like down here, like I want this as like a very long-term investment because, if it's $1 and then I get it up to $2 at that point, like 250 covered calls, those will have, weekly premiums of at least, 10, 15 bucks each and 15 bucks on $100 cost basis is, I'm recouping 15% of my cost basis every week.
Every time you do it. Yep. And as long as you get those IV spikes, you're good.
Yeah. Like, a couple of buddies of mine, like we did that on AMC actually earlier this afternoon. Like, I only had like
this morning I was about to write a bunch of covered, like I have a bunch of, like I've been in and out, but I was going to write some AMC covered calls this morning. And as soon as I like hit the buy button, it didn't fill. And then the stock price just kept dropping. I'm like, no, come on.
Yeah. That's the worst.
I should have just taken, I was trying to get a little bit greedy and I was like, all right, just get a little bit more and I'll write all these things out at once. And it just didn't happen. What are you seeing? I mean, what are you seeing for that? Because I know the backstory. Basically, you got two camps, right? I don't know. Did you read what I wrote that on the Discord?
I mean, I've been in. So like, I don't like trade AMC like all that much. Like I do like every now and then, because like I was like I actually got into, like I really started taking like the whole trading thing seriously like during AMC. Like I wasn't around for GameStop, but like I bought Clove. It went from like $8 to $20. I made a couple $100 off of that, and then AMC, like I was like, okay, I'll buy 15 shares, and then it went from like 8 to 70. I'm like, oh my god, the stock market's so easy. Like AMC, like let's get $1,000, and then I waited months and months and months, and I'm like, okay, I entered at 10, it's still at 30. I sold my AMC, I mean, all 15 shares that I had. It wasn't that much, at that point I was already like dabbling in other ones like BBIG and XELA and et cetera, and then learn lessons obviously from those, just about like dilution and getting in bed with the wrong,
because that's where I found you, right? You were writing DD
BBIG,
for BBIG, and I was like, hey, dude, like dilution,
and I appreciate you, I appreciate you poaching me from that cult
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say.
yeah, those like they were like, yeah, like, I tried to, obviously, like at the time, I did have a little bit of a bullish bias, but then I started realizing, well, maybe these options contracts are not quite what you think they are. How do you spin this, so that you don't get like pitchforked and tarred and feathered and burned at the stake, because BBIG is not going to go to $5 next week. And what is it right now? What, 70, 80 cents, something like that.
Oh my God, I haven't looked at. I mean, they're on the
Yeah.
verge of being delisted. I think, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they haven't been above $1 oh God, yeah. Jesus. Yeah, basically, yeah, Hudson Bay got all their money, and then
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's gonna suck for the shareholders there, but they've had more than enough time to get out. They, the problems weren't just with short sellers. It was obviously just a badly mismanaged company that had no revenue and just burns investor capital.
Cash. Oh my God, yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I told you, Ted Farnsworth. Anything that guy touches, just short. Like,
yeah, it's worse than Jim Cramer.
yeah, like no, like literally anything
Yeah.
that guy touches. Poof.
Mhm.
All right. So, what do you think for Tyrion short term? You think we'll probably bounce pretty soon in the next couple days
Yeah,
before
I
earnings?
yeah, I think I don't know. Today was like one of those days where I'm like, like it closed above $1.20, and like, my bids are, in the 110, 113 and 110. I think I have a 109 maybe, and I don't know, but I already have enough of a position, where it's like, if it goes up from here, great. I want to get this done and over with at some point. I think we all do,
Yeah.
So at this point, but every week or every month that goes by, where I get a paycheck and I'm like, well, if it's down here, of course I'm going to add here because, unless you're lucky enough, if you're lucky enough to buy in this, 70-cent range or so, like we're, clearly tax loss selling here because you got the low right at, the last day of the year. So
Yep.
it's just been up every day since. It had no reason being down that low, of course, but yeah, but anyhow, yeah, I think maybe short term, my thinking is maybe, connects to what, this is, 20 DMA. So, maybe it gets back to like 130 or so. And then, if the SPY comes down to 380, maybe that coincides with ATER coming back to like,
The
buck
97 cents.
Yeah, maybe it closes the gap, but that would actually, like, if they close that and then it's, you get a wick down to close it, and then it comes back up into like the low $1 range. Like that would honestly be beautiful, and then that could put all of us out of our misery, and finally start to see something, more sustained for the longer term here. But
yeah, I mean, I think what we'll see is revenue will probably be roughly around the same or slightly less, but we'll finally see better margins.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what most of them are looking for as far as like the analysts. Whenever you listen to analysts, they ask a lot of good questions. But with shipping rates coming back down, they sold through a bunch of the really expensive stuff. So they may actually have slightly better revenue just because, they just got rid of stuff at a loss, but they're still bringing in money, and then anything they sell going forward will be better margins.
Yeah.
So that will help at least probably cash flow, and if they can unlock maybe some of the $2 warrants, that will give them additional cash too. And Armistice will probably push it up slightly from there, because we know at least 266 is where they would make profit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to think too at some point in the coming quarters, like Ethereum is going to be pretty close to, being, having more assets, I think, than debt, and start trading at like a real like price to earnings multiple, I would think. I'm not sure like, what that ratio is.
So Craig Halliam, who also owns shares through all of the underwriting, they put out a $3 price target on Ethereum.
Oh, okay.
Which coincides conveniently to where also their warrants are.
Well, all right. Well, there you have it.
But interesting, right? That's what made me go, okay, I don't, in the short term, I'm not really worried, because I know if they're putting out a $3 price, they're going to want to get their shares out at some point, which means that.
Yeah. I don't know how much like price targets really mean here, but yeah, that $3 range, that's definitely a
But it kind of,
congestion zone.
yeah. But if you think about it, it actually kind of makes sense because if they have their stuff and they want to get it out there, they've
Hmm.
already seen that the stock can run. Retail does whenever the volume picks up, you get a bunch of people who are holding and have $4 averages pumping the stock, and they're all going to be like, oh, it's back, and like it's the same. It's going to
Hmm.
happen. There's going to be new people coming in at some point. Somebody
Yep.
said that they saw like a Facebook group was already talking about, oh, well, they're just seeing ATER being blasted across this Facebook trading group,
Hmm.
which has nothing to do with any of us. Nobody in the Discord actually is part of the group except for the one person. So
Hmm.
y-
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
almost think that like whenever these guys are like, okay, we're gonna pump, just go out to a bunch. They just hire a bunch of like Philippine bot farms, and they're just like, hey, go chat up a bunch of like stock twits and Reddit and all these other forums. Find us
Hmm.
some new buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it won't take much to move this,
I mean,
but
any volume we get like massive spikes. That's
hmm.
like what was it that one day, the Friday I think it was. I mean, you can almost see it from here. Keep going to the right a little bit. Where the big
Um,
green bar is.
here?
Yeah, look at the no volume, no volume, slight amount of volume. It ran like what, like
Yeah, 30 million volume that day, which was up from a 900,000 the day before.
yeah. I mean, look at the
uh,
last run. Like when we actually ran to 7. Look at that. It was like literally like
160 million.
where did that come
Yeah.
from?
Yeah. Right.
What was it the days before? Like, was that the run April? No, go back further than that. It was like March when the actual like
Yeah.
first couple. Yeah, but like yeah, right. Where was it?
Here?
Yeah, see that
Yeah,
one
that was the
huge
first one.
bar?
145.
Yeah,
Yeah.
145 million. And what was it the day before?
Uh, it
700.
was 3.19 actually.
Okay,
3.19.
3.1. Okay,
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, that was still a decent amount of volume though. Like, 1.9 to 4 million volume a day on average, like up here,
yeah.
which is the,
I mean, we have more shares outstanding. We have even less volume.
yeah, totally wild. But yeah, notice too, like how it reached that $7 high on slightly less volume, like almost 60% of the volume from that maximum, like 160 million volume day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was probably not a coincidence. Yeah, definitely people shorting the top there.
Yep.
Yep, or just shorting into the thing.
And that's when
Because
all
I think
the hedge funds and everybody were getting out.
yeah, you remember who was the one girl that used to post like way back in like the heyday days of like $20 share price.
Oh, you're talking about Trader G.
Not Trader G. Maybe I don't know, but
Was
it was the girl who showed ADL versus on balance volume.
yeah.
And then I think we figured out at some point that like these days where like the volume just goes through the roof, but ADL just like falls like a rock. That means it's being shorted into because obviously
Yeah.
all that volume's just kind of being created out of thin air. Meaning like okay, we'll cover somewhere else, and then sure enough, you short at 7, and then a month later it's 320. You've made a heck of a killing on that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but such is life. But yeah, short term, I think. And I think yeah, maybe a little bit more waiting time here. Maybe a chance for me to if I play I guess play Boyle right. I'll have a little extra money. I think to snag maybe another couple hundred shares or so.
So I
Park
think
them
move
down.
it over a little bit, and then from there maybe
Yeah,
earnings as the catalyst.
yeah, earnings could definitely be a catalyst. I think we'll have a better idea like what happens with earnings and what happens to this gap before earnings. I think depending on how both of those questions get answered will kind of give us a little bit of a trajectory here. Like, because I would love nothing more than to see all these down gaps just completely filled and off the table.
What was it, 280, and then
Yeah, I think we said like two. Well, 220, yeah, buck 86, then
Yeah, sorry,
222,
180. Then there was like, yeah, there's a bunch of them.
222, 250, yeah, 260. Yeah, really all the way like up to 3. There's just gap after gap after gap after gap. But
Yep.
yeah, I think clear 225, just kind of poke above it, consolidate a little bit and then get it up to like $3 or so. I think at that point though, like
Yeah, that's probably where it's gonna. They'll probably start unloading the like shares and get converting the warrants over at that point.
So I'd hope maybe like once it gets up to like maybe once it starts trying to break a buck 60 or so, maybe that'll be the time to well, I would normally sell calls I guess in that case, but like
maybe
buying some $2
it,
calls to get take advantage of bump into the low $2 range where like at that point just buy and sell the calls and then make your money that way without having to sell the shares.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it's like, okay, and for a lot of people, if they want off the train, that's at least if you've I've noticed some people were saying they've got averages in the ones now.
Good.
Yeah.
Mine's like real low, very low ones.
There
like
you go.
15, 114, I think.
That's pretty good. 114 is your average.
Yeah, and like the core shares, not the ones that I swing or sell covered calls on, but and that's less any because I think when I started like after this dilution, I think like I had like a several in like the 180 to 220 range, like up here, and then I bought a couple lots in this 160 while it was a falling knife, and then several up here, but then like I think it was one of these spikes up here to like a buck 24. Like I think I was making a little bit of money on buck 50 covered calls. So like just over the course of like a couple weeks, like it was like maybe $15 or so, but $15 on buck 30. That brought the cost basis down. Like a couple cents a week for 8-9 weeks or so. So it's
I'm just thinking like, do I want to look at some maybe like $2, $2.50 calls just to play the IV spike?
Yeah, the thing is that like I was just looking at these calls and like they are ridiculously illiquid right now. Like I don't even see like a good like dollar option right now where like I could get a decent bid on them without overpaying for it. That is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's weird. Like I was looking at them, and they're so like at times like I'll watch almost like I'll be down $20,000 on one of these options, and I'm like, what is going on? If I just put in like a bid of like one share, all of a sudden it's back to normal. Because like the bid ask is so wide. I'm like,
they're very the only ones that even look remotely liquid right now are like like the dollar like 317 calls, they're bids at 18, but the ask is up to 30.
Yeah,
that looks like there's some volume in like the 23 to 24 cent range, but like that's
2024 January 2024 has a little bit more liquidity, but I mean I'm just I was gonna say I remember I think there's been a good amount of people stacking there, so like there is some at least like 150s. I think it have a decent amount of OAT.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the 119s actually look quite nice.
Yeah, so those ones are ones that are like.
Yeah, how much of that 2,400 open interest is you?
Probably a lot. Which is the one I was joking about. Like literally, I'm like swinging like 30 grand on like I'm like, wait, why am I down 30 grand today? And I like look and I'm like, oh, okay, well,
no,
I put in like a 25-cent bid, and next thing I know, it's like up like, it's only down like 5 grand. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the $25 50 calls have they have 642 open interest already. Someone's I think someone listens to our feed here, hanging on.
That, or basically it could be people, the hedge funds actually starting to play. There's somebody. I guess
that can't be that. It's only 600 calls though. Like that's not that much.
No. But I'm saying I'm pretty sure I saw. Are you able to pull up real quick the 13Fs, or do you want me to do it on mine?
What am I looking at? Or
13, or sorry, let me see if I can do it on mine real quick. do I need? Oh, I just go. Somebody bought basically like something like 80 million calls on ATER. Let me see.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me just do this. I'm gonna move this real quick, and you can do your thing. You're not. I just pulled you off. But
Okay.
I think what it was when we looked at ownership on the end ports.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can find these real quick. We noticed that someone had a huge amount of calls. Owners, maybe institutional ownership. If we go down here. Oh, here it is. Element Point Advisors. I don't know if you can see this. You probably have to look at your YouTube.
Yeah, I'll stop the share here just
Okay.
temporarily. Yeah, it looks like I still see. Oh, I need to go live here. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. I see it.
But see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
On 213, it looks
Mm-hmm.
like they went long calls.
Mm.
But look at that. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess the natural question to ask is that's just a open call position, or is that to hedge a short position?
It could be. So that's what we're trying to figure out is like, is this another one of them that's just doing this, or do they know that they're going to maybe close their short positions, so they're buying this amount of calls to basically play the upside? Because obviously, if they close their short positions, then it's going to send the stock price up.
Mm-hmm.
So why not take advantage of that, right?
Yep, exactly.
Makes sense. Just throwing it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, you can go back to your screen share.
Yeah, we'll have a few minutes left, I guess. So I can probably have time for one more ticker here before I should
Yeah. Do you
call
want to?
it.
I'm just curious. Do you want to do? Is there anything you want to talk about as far as like AMC or BBBY or
Yeah, well,
BBBY
BBBY,
is just, that's just dilution that's happening.
yeah, to me, yeah, that one's dead in the water. I'm completely out of that one. Like I tried it twice. I had one hit out of three. Ended up, with I think like a 3 or 4% loss on that one in total. But is what it is. As soon as I found out Hudson Bay's basically, has like escalator warrants with them, I'm
Yep.
like, ETFO, like abandoned ship, like ASAP, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say with BBBY, I saw they had no cash and they basically were owing on bonds, and I was like, oh, they're gonna dilute.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Exactly. So,
Troca.
yeah. So I ended up, yeah. So I entered. So I bought Gina's, this morning at like about 360 or so, because I saw like yeah. Again, like I'm just trying to catch up. I'm like, okay, what's this play?
Well, we just found the lawsuit today, so that's all new to us.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's already been in there, but it looks like I bought a small position. It was like 50 something share, like very, very little, just because I'm like, okay, enough to get me in just in case like this thing, just takes a moonshot and I'll, keep up the DD here. But the chart initially looked pretty good. It did close below its 200 DMA today, but it's still got all this resistance here. And it's pretty much like, it really doesn't have that much more down to go before it's like, it gets into this vacuum of a volume. Like, I don't know. I assume this is dilution here where it just, cratered, well below like 330 or so. But and I figured at 350, like it could be okay, but it's got a lot of work to do though to get like up to like 450 or so. But
Yep.
I don't know, but like 350 to 4.
They
is
do
still,
have another gap, I believe, in what 2 something. I think there was a gap at 2.
Yeah,
yep.
224 to 277.
Yeah. So I know it already filled the 420 gap that it left. So I'm like, do I wait and see if it gets down to like the 220s before I re-enter? I just, at this point, I'm not sure at this point. I'm like, maybe I start,
Yeah, I'm with you there. Just for the sake of time, I wasn't too sure, so I ended up just taking a day trade on that one. I closed most of those when it was like I think it got to like 385. So it was like tiny gain. It's basically like candy bar money. Nothing big or whatever. But Troika, though, on the other hand, this one was far more interesting to me because, you know, again, yeah, they have, yeah, there's, yeah, a couple bull gaps, bear gaps, of course, all the way up here. And I'm like, well, gee, you know, like I bought a couple hundred at, you know, 42, and then I picked up another couple lots at the end of the day, like when it was down to like 36, like when everything was being sold off. And
Yep.
I see here that, yeah, tagged it's 200, which means, you know, tomorrow I'm hoping, you know,
Breaks
either
through.
gaps above that, you know, wicks, and then
Back
yeah,
test.
it gets a little close below it. Yeah, and then a back test. Like that would be basically like, I'd be like, okay, great, you know, then I'll buy a little bit more when it gets back to the 200. But if not, then, you know, maybe, you know, a little bit more ping pong action again, and another one.
Maybe fill the gap and then.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, but that's, you know, that'd be like a 33% loss. So that would be devastating, honestly. So I don't know. This one gotta tread real carefully, but oh my god, though, like if you have the, you know, the balls or the boobs, you know, to just kind of, you know, wait this out here, you know, that you can.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff to the upside
potential here. Yeah, you gotta. You
they canceled their filing, right? They had a bunch of they had a bunch of convertibles that were there, but they are working with Jefferies though for a capital restructure, which means that there's possibly more fundraising going to go on. But could it run in the meantime? It's possible.
I don't know. I mean, I will say, like, I dumped, you know, that, you know, the genus, you know, just because this does objectively look more bullish, and it just, this to me looks like, you know, it's got a little bit more to go here before it tops off stochastic RSI. Like you know, it only closed it at 88 today, so it's, you know, it's got to have at least one more update, I think, before it just tops it off here, and then that's when you
getting a little hot though on the RSI.
It's getting really hot here. So, but yeah, it'll be pretty typical. Yeah, maybe it goes above there. I don't know. I'll see how it goes. Like if it runs, you know, pretty big, I'll, you know, maybe
cash out and
cash out some of that, wait for a back test, and then, you know, if it goes higher, you know, great to whoever's holding it. If not, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just you make money, you make money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because anything like, especially in this penny stock range here, you go from like 50 to 40 cents, like that can, you know, it takes a lot of effort to compound, you know, 5, 10, 20% gainers, you know, and to lose 33% on one trade would be just, you know, that'd be really, really tough to stomach. So yeah, I gotta respect the stop loss here, but I tell you though, it's, you know, or just, take the stop loss and reload, you know, down here. Cause this is a pretty big volume shelf here too, at like, you know, 23 to 25 cents or so. And, you know, 25 to 50, you know, that gets money back even if you do take a stop loss. So it's, just waiting for it and, you know, see how it goes. But I have to see how the rest of the market does.
Yeah, well, we got a minute left, so I'll just go ahead and we'll probably end the stream here. But it was great catching up with you, man. I was going to say, you going to be around more? Or?
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, pretty much, the whole month of March, I just got to, you know, I have my day job, which is basically, you know, I'll, you know, read maps, write computer code, babysit the code in the background. And then while I'm babysitting, you know, my favorite thing to do while babysitting computer code is, you know, watching stock charts. Yeah. So
we'll send some Arctic blast all across the world for me. Okay?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'll say, that's one thing that we learned at the one of my meetings there is that, you know, the more the Arctic warms, the more you get these high frequency baroclinic cyclones, you know, that just kind of circumvent, you know, the larger eddies that are
those the Arctic bombs, as they're called.
Yeah. So it's like, it's one of those things that just has me thinking as, you know, climate scientists, you know, does Arctic warming mean global cooling in some spots?
Interesting.
And I think you're starting to see that a little bit. Yeah. But,
go boil, go.
Yeah, go boil. Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely mostly in boil right now. So.
All right. Sounds good, man. Good catching up with you.
Yeah, likewise. You have a great night.
You too, guys. All right.
You take care. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, man. Peace. All right. You guys have a great evening.